If I could only own two lenses, it would be these two lenses. This is the 24-70 G Master Mark II from Sony, as well as the 70-200 millimeter G Master Mark II. Now, don't get me wrong, I have plenty of other lenses that I love, like my Contax Zeiss 28 millimeter vintage lens that I got rehoused. I'll have a video coming out on that soon, so maybe subscribe if you don't want to miss out on that video. But really, when it comes to just getting work done, I wouldn't stray too far from these two lenses. So the 24-70 and the 70-200 is so versatile because of the range that it gives you. So you get 24 millimeters all the way up to 200 millimeters between these two lenses. But not only that, with all these modern Sony cameras, you can actually shoot in APS-C mode, which is going to give you an extra 1.6 times whatever lens you're using. So in the case of the 70-200, it's going to give me up to 320 millimeters of range, which is just really amazing. I think that that's partially why this combo of lenses is so loved. The versatility is just incredible. Now, I actually took these lenses to the zoo and I was put in a situation where that actually came in handy, and I'll go ahead and roll that clip for you guys here. So I'll be honest, while I've been out here, I've been way favoring the 70-200 over that 24-70 millimeter G Master Mark II. And that's not to say that the 24-70 is a bad lens. It's a fantastic lens, really. But in a situation like this at the zoo, all the animals aren't exactly wanting to come up to the fence for their portrait, so I'm having to snipe them from pretty far away. And the 70-200 is actually giving me enough reach to be able to get some pretty solid photos and videos. Even when I'm severely far away, you can actually see in this clip here, I am miles away from these bears, but I'm actually able to get reasonably close footage of them with this lens. Now, I would say probably in this situation, a 400 millimeter would be even better, but that is a huge lens and not practical to bring around, whereas the 70-200 is actually a reasonably small lens. It looks quite large like this, but actually if I go ahead and take off the lens hood, you can see that it's actually relatively compact. So that's definitely a plus when it comes to this lens. But yes, this 70-200, I mean, it's honestly my favorite. Before we go any farther in this video, I do want to make sure that I'm honest with y'all. Sony did send me out both the 24-70, which I'm filming on right now, and the 70-200 millimeters for the purposes of this video. That being said, they are not controlling what I am saying in this video, but I just wanted to make sure that I was honest with you guys that they did provide the lenses for this video before we move on any further. Now, if you are subscribed to my channel, you may notice that I have a very similar video to this video about the Sigma 24-70 and the 70-200. However, when it comes to zoom lenses, I really can't say that there are any lenses better than these Sony G Master Mark IIs. There's something just extra crispy about the images and the video that you're able to get with these lenses. Because they have a constant f2.8 aperture, you can actually use these lenses almost as pseudo primes for portrait photography, for example, or in the case for me, I was photographing these really cool macaws with these lenses, and I'm able to get some pretty beautiful bokeh, even though these are zoom lenses. The most important thing about selecting a lens is going to be the overall image quality. And when it comes to these Sony native lenses, that is definitely not an issue. So we're going to quickly take a look at overall sharpness, chromatic aberration, and vignetting. So I have Lightroom pulled up here, and as we can just see from this first image, I can zoom in. You are not sacrificing on overall detail and image quality when it comes to these lenses. Now, I believe this is the 70-200 millimeter, and you can tell that it focused in on the eye and was able to capture all of that detail. Now, granted, this is a high megapixel Sony camera, but it still does show the quality of the lenses. Now, I add vignetting to my photos, so I'm gonna go ahead and come over to a different photo here. This is just a unedited raw photo, and this is shot with the 24-70, and we're gonna look at the sharpness, and as you can see when I zoom in here quite substantially, the sharpness is good. Even up here in the corners, you can see that there is really good detail retention, and also there is little to no vignetting at all. Actually, I don't see any vignetting, but if you do, feel free to let me know. The same can be said for the 70-200 millimeter. The sharpness in the center is extremely good, and then even at the edges, you're retaining all of that detail. Now here's another image just to try to see if we can find any chromatic aberration. And just zooming in here, you're looking for hard edges, and you can normally see some like weird color stuff. Maybe that's some, but honestly, I don't think so. I think that might just be the color of the metal, but I'm not seeing any chromatic aberration with this lens. This is the 70-200. The glass in these G Master lenses is just so high quality that chromatic aberration just doesn't seem to be an issue at all. I really want to point out this photo right here actually, because this was shot with the 24-70mm lens at f2.8. And the thing that I really want to draw your attention to is the bokeh in the background. It's really, really beautiful. And honestly, for a zoom lens, this is some really beautiful bokeh. This is something that you would obviously expect from a prime lens, but you get what you pay for. Sony did not mess around when it comes to the image quality on these zooms. They basically wanted to give you prime lens capability, but with a zoom lens flexibility. And I think they really achieved that. You can tell in these images, the bokeh just looks so dreamy. Another thing about these lenses that is fantastic is that they actually have programmable buttons here on the side of the lens, not just here for this orientation, but also a button for this orientation. And you can program it to do anything you want. In my case, I have it programmed to turn off subject tracking because sometimes in what I do, I don't always want it to track a human subject. Sometimes I want it to focus on a product like this, but if my head was in the frame, well, the camera would get confused and not know what to do. I do like to have these programmed to turn off subject tracking. Now, Sony doesn't skimp out on their G Masters. Another thing that they give you is an option to turn on or off a clicked aperture. Now, I personally prefer clicked aperture, but some people really want to have that turned off. Maybe you're going from an inside scene to an outside scene and you want to be able to change your aperture and it not make any noise like that. Personally, I like the clicked aperture just because I can feel that feedback of when I switch over into another aperture, but you have the option with these G Master Mark II Sony lenses. Guys, I really do adore this 70-200mm lens from Sony, and one of the main things that I actually like about it is that the zoom is internal. So that means as I'm at 70mm here, when I go to 200mm, the lens itself doesn't move. Now, this is just really nice feature for keeping it compact because these lenses are already pretty long, so you're not gonna have the element protrude any more than this. I don't know, it might be a small thing, but to me, it's kind of a big deal. Now, I actually really enjoyed using this for photography, but I do tend to lean more towards video. It's how I ended up here on YouTube. And I think that these are fabulous for video, particularly when it comes to stabilization. So I was using the 70-200mm handheld, and it looks really stable and smooth. I honestly was surprised at how stable and smooth it was. And if I turned off the stabilization, which I did while I was at the zoo filming these macaws, you can see way shakier. I did just have a cup of coffee, but I think you guys can get the point as to how good the stabilization is even at 200mm. And again, when I was filming those bears in APS-C mode at 320mm, I was still hand holding this lens. So again, the stabilization is just superb on these G Master Mark II lenses paired with a Sony body. And I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to say. There's a certain benefit to using native glass on the bodies that work with it. Everything just works so cohesively. The autofocus is incredible. When I was using the 24-70 and the 70-200, as you can see, I'm doing an autofocus test right here. It's able to find the eye of my subject, which in this case is me, and it doesn't lose me at all. And the focus is quick and reliable, which is exactly what you would expect on a Sony system using Sony glass. But not only that, I was using animal eye track while I was at the zoo, and it was able to find all the different animals even when they were somewhat obstructed by other things. So for example, this shot of this macaw, he was hiding behind a couple of branches, but even still, the Sony A7RV was able to find it. I guess that's more of a compliment to the A7RV than the lens itself, but again, there's just a certain cohesion with using native glass on these Sony bodies. I just wanted to show you guys how pretty it is out here today. That sunset is gorgeous, but I have to brighten it up so that you can even see me. That might not even be bright enough. But anyways, guys, I don't know, this is just my opinion. I do really love these two lenses, specifically these two G Master Mark II lenses from Sony, but really 24-70 and the 70-200 in general. Now, I do understand that these lenses are pretty expensive, and I'm well aware of that. But one thing you have to factor in is to get the focal range from 24 all the way to 200 as primes, it's definitely giving you a bit of a bargain because of that f2.8 constant. So if you're needing flexibility and you're not shooting environments where you can switch lenses all the time, the value of the versatility of these lenses, I think, speaks for themselves. But again, that is just my opinion. Now, these are just my go-to lenses, but definitely let me know, what's your go-to lens that you keep in your bag all the time? Is it the 24-70 and the 70-200, or is it something else entirely? I'd be curious to read what you guys have to offer there. Also, if you guys want, I have a really cool video about some budget anamorphic lenses that ended up being pretty cool. We got some really awesome footage with it, so definitely go check out that video if you're interested. Guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video and found it useful. I hope that you all have a fantastic week, and I will see you all in the next one. Take it easy, guys.